Hey there, FLOSSTUBE. It's Cathy, the hands-on designer, and I am here with the final installment, the final specialty stitch tutorial for the Winter Folk, the final chart in the 4 Seasons Folk series. But before we get into that, I want to just kind of show you just a reminder what the 4 Seasons Folk look like. Here is the Spring Folk. This came out actually just about a year ago. I'm filming this now the week before we are heading off to Nashville Needlework Market, and that's where Spring Folk made its debut last year. A fun band sampler filled with all kinds of specialty stitches and fun little motifs. Really what I kind of wanted to do with this series was just give you the chance to kind of stitch maybe like a band a day, just a short little snippet that you could do 1 row a day and then in very short order complete this really cool seasonal band sampler. Of course, the folk paddle was by Chantelle from 141 Design Company, and the way she cut it out, it had this etching of kind of this quilty etching on it that just was the perfect match. And if you'll remember, the seasons all are the same size, so you could just do 1 board and then switch them out with magnets. So really you just had to invest in 1 board, finish that, and then switch from season to season. We also had some really fun stitch alongs with this series. Sarah from Stitchy Sarah Reads kicked off the first stitch along, and she did an awesome job with it. Just kind of keeping you updated as she was making her progress through. She actually used the called for linen, threads, rickrack, and finishing fabric. So it was really fun for me to see that come to life. All of the stitchers who led the stitch alongs, I will post below their Instagram accounts and their YouTube accounts. If you haven't already, give them a follow because they're great stitchers. They do wonderful work. They stitch a lot of fun designs, not just necessarily hands-on design, but a lot of other great projects as well. So I really think it's worth it to give them a follow and see what they're up to. So thank you to Sarah from Stitchy Sarah Reads, Sarah L, for leading the first stitch along Spring Folk. So shortly after that, we had Summer Folk, and Shari Moss led this stitch along. We had all kinds of fun bumblebees, butterflies, and some beautiful cone flowers, lots of deep, intense summer colors. It really reminded me a lot of the colors of summer that I enjoy. So this was Summer Folk, and with each one of these, I do great diagrams inside each chart to kind of walk you through row by row, plus the special diagrams for the specialty stitches on both linen and Aida, because all of these designs are Aida friendly. I've done now 3 previous videos for the specialty stitch showing you those, and I'll be getting here to the winter very soon. And then Shari actually led the Autumn Folk as well, because Sarah, I was going to ask Sarah to do the Autumn Folk, but she actually had previously stitched this one at the Chantelle's 141 Design Company retreat. So she already had hers done. She was ahead of the game. When it came time for the winter, Sarah said that she'd like to lead this one again, but she recruited her friend Sarah from Handmade by Sarah W. I'm looking down at my little cheat sheet here just to keep the 2 Sarahs straight. So what was kind of fun about having Sarah W. stitch this was that she changed up the colors a little bit and also stitched it on 14 count. 14 count or 16 count? Ooh, now I can't remember. Probably I'm thinking 16 count because she finished hers the same way. I used a 32 count driftwood, Fabrics by Stephanie. So she did a 16 count in whatever color she chose, and she does talk about that in her videos. And then what's fun is they did floss tubes together, and they're side by side, because although they're good stitchy friends, they actually live in different parts of the country. I think that's so cool. So she kind of gave her take on how she finished hers using her favorite colors. So I really want to say thank you to Chari and the two Sarahs, Sarah, Stitchy Sarah Reed, Sarah L, and then Sarah W, handmade by Sarah. As I said, I will put all of their information below to their FLOSSTUBE accounts as well as their Instagram accounts. Give them a follow. They're all fun stitchers, and I think you'll enjoy it. So I do want to talk today about the specialty stitches. I haven't done this one yet. We've had a few delays because the chart actually came out, this final chart in the series actually came out last fall. I know a good number of you have already finished. So thankfully you weren't waiting for me to post the specialty stitch tutorial. As I said, I do really good instructions showing both this charted in for both linen and Aida, but I do like to come. I actually almost kind of thought like maybe I wouldn't do this one, but I did have a few emails saying, hey, where's the video? We already finished it, but we just like watching them anyway. So I thought, okay. So I had a little bit of time. We're actually, you'll notice I'm kind of in a different location in the studio. That's kind of my computer behind me because my regular work table over there is really packed with all the models that we're getting ready to take to market with us. So we leave a week from tomorrow. But I had a little bit of time and I just wanted to make sure that I got this in. And and maybe if you are waiting for the video, if that's the one little thing that you haven't finished yet, or if you're like, oh, I got to here, but I need to get back on it, maybe this will spur you on and help you finish up your winter folk. It is still technically winter, you know. We've had super sub-zero temperatures, but then yesterday, it got into the 50s, even I think maybe the 60s. We're supposed to be there this week. So a lot of our snow is melting. We enjoyed our walk outside, but I'm here to tell you it is still February and we get some of our biggest snowfalls in March. So winter is not over yet. So I just really enjoyed this series and I'm glad that you did too. Band samplers like this were kind of it was something new for me. What I really enjoyed was just these quick bands that all you just had was this little nugget of a row to stitch. And if you do even just one a day, it was a really easy project to kind of pace yourself. And before you know it, you had this lovely sampler to finish. And we've got finishing tutorials. We've got all kinds of things. I know the Sarahs and Chari kind of talked to you about their finishes. So I really feel like, you know, if you need any questions answered or a little bit of help with the finishing, the board, super easy to switch out, as I said, with magnets. So it just goes like, you know, just slides off like that and you just put the next season on. Now, this does bring this series to a close, but if you did attend the Jingle Ball, you'll notice that there was a Christmas folk. That was my exclusive for the Jingle Ball this year. I actually had a lot of fun and I painted the board. I wanted it to kind of be a standalone, so I stained the board a lovely dark holly green that went with the piece. I will be releasing that at some point. I actually am not exactly sure when it's going to fit into the schedule, but I will be releasing it. So if you love this series and you love this style and you weren't able to attend the Jingle Ball this year, know that I will be releasing that. And even though I said I was done, and I never say never, and we came out with a Christmas folk, I don't have specific plans, but you never know if I might be hit with a thought process of one other seasonal folk or holiday folk. I don't know, never say never. So I'm going to talk to you about, let's move on to the specialty stitches. So I'm going to show you this part of the chart. I did 3 different specialty stitches in the winter folk. We did an upright cross, double plated cross, and a raised stitch. And these are all just some of my favorite stitches. I really like, even though I know I'm a Smyrna cross gal, that is my favorite stitch. That is my favorite specialty stitch. I really love this double plated cross because there's just a fun little secret that you have to do in the weaving of it that really, when you look at it, you go, gosh, that looks like a really complicated stitch. And you just kind of go, Don't tell people that it's super easy. And then of course the raised stitches, they just always look They're just so fun. They're so pretty. They look like little feathers. So grab your chart. And what I'm going to do first, as I've done in the previous videos, I will demonstrate on linen first, and then we'll take a break, and I will demonstrate on Aida. We do have one slight modification on the raised stitch because with the way I diagrammed it for linen, we are actually on a few of them going over one thread. So if we did the same thing on Aida, you'd actually have to split the Aida block. And I don't always like doing that. Sometimes it's kind of hard to do it. And I think the way it looks, it doesn't always make the thread lay very nicely. So that's why I gave you the alternate finish, or the alternate raised stitch. It still has the same look. All right, so grab your stitching if you haven't done those rows yet, or grab your chart and follow along. Again, we're using the number 12 pearl cotton. It's color number 642. It's the color that I used in all 4 of the Four Seasons folk charts. So one ball, and I've actually used quite a bit. I've used this to stitch my 4 models, and also when I've done these videos to demonstrate, and I've probably used it for other things, and I actually used it for the Christmas folk too. So one ball, same color, that'll get you through all the charts. So anyway, so number 12 pearl cotton. It is, and I think I've said in previous videos, if for some reason you don't want to use the number 12 pearl cotton, you can use the just regular the 642 floss. I would suggest using 2 strands of it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get some needles loaded up, and we'll start having fun with the 3 specialty stitches on linen first. Okay, we are back. I've got my linen all put into a hoop, and I added a just a working board underneath, so all the white on white, you know, maybe you could see the stitches better this way. So I've talked about it in previous videos, the waist knot or the away waist knot. You check that out in previous videos, but that's what I started with. I put a little knot over here. So my thread will come across the back like this, and then as I stitch this way, I will cover that with my stitches. So when I have a good maybe like inch or so of it covered, I can go ahead and snip that and then take my knot away. So I talk about that a little bit more in a couple of the previous videos. I'm going to actually lower this table just a little bit. All right, bear with me. We're going to go down. There we go. Just so that I can see a little bit better. Sorry about that. Okay, wonders of modern technology. I have a little table on hydraulic. This is where I usually take my photos. And as I said, every other work surface is covered with market items. So yeah, we're going to take advantage of my photo area. All right, so we're going to do the upright cross first. Basically, it looks like a little plus sign. That's all it is. That's what I kind of like to demystify some of these specialty stitches, because really if you just follow the numbers and you follow the threads, you get some really cool texture on your stitching, and I think that's a lot of fun. So all right, so you can see I brought my needle up here, kind of got it going. So this is what happens. Remember, my knot's over here, my thread on the back. So it goes like that, and I kind of carried it straight across so that I would cover it up with my stitches. So our first stitch, if you'll look at the diagram, let me grab my chart here. I feel like it's been so long since I did this. I'm like, how did I do this? Okay, we're actually going to come up at 1, down at 2, up at 3, down at 4. Remember, we come up on the odd numbers, down on the even numbers. So our first one came up at 1, and I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. Bring my needle down. All right, there's that first part of the stitch. Then I'm going to simply cross it. So I'm going to, you can count horizontally then vertically. So 1, 2, and then up 1, 2, and that's where my needle would come up. And then straight over 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. My thread goes down right there. All right, that's it. That's my plus sign. All right. Now, I am going to talk to you about the placement of the next one. If you look at my chart, we're going to stitch in the same order. So we're going to come up here and then down here and cross it. Now, the biggest thing about these, it's kind of like the Smyrna cross. I always like to do where the last stitch, the last part of the specialty stitch, in this case, it's the horizontal stitch, that all of my stitches are crossed in the same way. Now, you might actually sometimes design it so that they are crossed in alternate ways. Like, so your last stitch here would be the vertical. That would give it a completely different look and probably something I would fit into the design during the whole design process, because sometimes I do like to switch the direction of different things. Again, just because it works with the design. In this case, because it's very simple, very clean looking, I wanted them all to cross the same way. So we're going to use, big proponent, use what we've already stitched to count placing for the placement of your second stitch. So you can either go on the diagonal 6 threads, 4 threads, 4, or you can go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the right 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, I'm actually going to go up and then to the right just to, I think that's in the beginning, that's kind of the easiest way to do it. All right, so we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, then to the right 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to bring my needle up and I'm going to count down 4 threads. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take my needle down. And by this time, I'm a little more comfortable where my plus sign, you know, where this vertical, or excuse me, horizontal stitch is. You can see I even just kind of eyeballed it, mostly because I'm used to stitching over 2, so I can kind of eyeball 2 threads pretty easily. So if you're an accomplished over 2 stitcher, I really think this is an easy stitch for you to do. So we can even use this 1, 2, 1, 2. And if your plus sign looks a little wonky, you're probably going to catch that right away. Other things that may make your plus sign a little wonky is you'll notice, you can kind of see in my little linen scrap here, I've got some thicker threads. I've got a couple little slubs in here. Like I probably wouldn't use that part. That's probably where this is in the scrap bin. So that might make your plus signs look a little different sized. But if you're kind of in what I call like sort of an even area, and you notice like, one of my plus signs looks a little bigger or just looks a little funny, you might have counted wrong. So that is worth double checking. All right, so then we've come down at 8. If you look at my chart again, I just keep stitching all of this in the same direction. We're always going to come up at the top, down to the bottom, up at the right, across to the left. So we'll come next to this stitch. So you'll see this is actually 2 threads over, 2 threads down. As I said, use what you've already stitched as kind of a guide to where the next stitch should be. So 1, 2, and down 1, 2. And here's another kind of guide, it should be in the same thread as that very first stitch. Okay, so now we're going to count down 1, 2, 3, 4, and come up over here. And again, it's going to be in the same thread as that first upright cross. And we're going to come down here and you'll notice this lines up too. Okay, that's your upright cross. It's just a fun little, I call this like a filling stitch, and it gives some extra fun texture. So I'm going to park my needle over here. I park my thread. I'll give that a trim. And let's get ready for the double plated cross. This is a fun one. I'm going to park my needle over here. And the reason why I do this with the waist knot or away waist knot is then I'm worrying about making sure I'm getting my stitches in the right spot. I'm making sure this fun texture looks right. Then I don't have to worry about, am I holding my thread on the back? Now, I'm doing this on a clean piece of linen. So if I had stitching here and I felt like I could run it under some previous stitches and I wasn't dragging the thread across blank linen too far, I would do that as well. I would find that that would be perfectly acceptable. Okay, so we are going to, let me grab the chart quickly. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to come up at 1, down at 2, then we pop down to up at 3, down at 4, then we come all the way down here, up at 5, down at 6. Now you're thinking, gosh, that's a lot of counting. But once we get beyond the first 2, then when I said like use your previous stitches to kind of help guide you where to place the next stitches, that's going to fall into place here. But now once we get from 7, you'll see we're over top of this one, but we're going to weave under that original stitch with our needle and then go down at number 8 right there. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate that. Okay, so we are going to come up here and I'm going to count up 6 and to the left 6. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and to the left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Down we go. All right, so that's 1 to 2. Then we're going to come down to 3, and then we'll actually, we're here, now we're going to come straight down here, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 threads. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now here's where we can kind of start using previous stitches. We're going to be coming up here to number 4. So the easiest way is to go 1, 2, 3, 4 threads up from where we originally came up. So we're going to count on the front. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's where we're going to go down. Okay. And I know I'm going back to this a lot, but we're going to come up here at 5, which if you'll see is 2 on the diagonal from that very first stitch. Or we can come down 2 and to the left 2. We'll go 1, 2, and to the left, 1, 2. And you'll see I'm in the same row, which we want to be, as that previous stitch. Now up here, we're going to do the same thing. We'll be 2 on the diagonal from that top left stitch. We can go 1, 2, 1, 2, and down we go. All right, we're almost there. It looks like a diagonal, I was going to say a diagonal pound sign, I guess, but nowadays we'd probably call that a diagonal hashtag, right? Okay, so we're going to come up in the bottom left corner, 2, over 2 and up 2, or 2 on the diagonal. So we'll go 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, by stitching these in the order, you can kind of see how some lay over, some lay cross over or lay under, And that's what's kind of the fun part of the double plate cross stitch. All right, so this one, I'm actually, because we're going to go over this thread, I want to go under this thread. So you can just see I just tucked my needle under there. I didn't pierce the linen, I didn't pierce the thread. I just carefully pulled my thread under. Let's pull it all the way through. So you can kind of see what that's going to look like. But now we have to find where we're going to end the stitch, which will actually be 2 up on the diagonal from that stitch right there. All right. So I just think it's a fun stitch. Hopefully I'm trying to hold it. Oh, that gives you a good idea. So it looks like it's woven. I think that's kind of fun. All right. I'm going to park my needle again and trim my thread. I would normally obviously run it under the back and end my thread, but I want to keep demonstrating. So our final is going to be, oops, that did not, hold on, I've got to quickly rethread my needle. I didn't realize it kind of, made a mess. So I'm just going to keep talking while I do this. Hopefully it won't take me too long. If it does, I will probably stop the camera. So I hope everybody's having a good week so far. We leave a week from tomorrow for market, and I'm super excited. I'm excited because we get to see the shop owners. I get to see a lot of my designing friends. And I know a lot of times probably when you see the photos, you're like, gosh, that just looks like so much fun. It's a lot of work. And it's a lot of fun if we're doing it right. Okay, got that in place. I'm going to park my thread again. So this time we're going to do the ray stitch. All right, so we're going to bring our needle up here at 1, and then you'll see on these arrows, everything is going to go down into the same hole, which can kind of open that hole up a little bit. That's okay, because this can be kind of a pulled, a lot of time we call those a pulled thread stitch, because that kind of helps with the lacy look to everything. So really the only counting will be where we come up, because once we get that first one situated, it's easy to know where we're going to bring that up or bring that thread down. Okay, so we're going to come here, and then on the diagonal, we're going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then over 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, then when we come up at number 2, or excuse me, number 3, well, I think I might, did I label? Oh, I did label it number 2. We'll come up down to the right diagonally, and we'll just keep doing that until we start working our way back up. All right, so let's see, where am I? I'll come up here, and count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go down. Okay, so now we know where, we don't even have to count where to go down, because we know we're going to come down at the top each time. So I said I was coming down on the diagonal, over and down and over 2 threads. So we've got 1, 2, and then 1, 2. We come up here, stitch number 2. And we go down into that hole. That looked fun. And we're going to take stitch number 3, 1, 2, and then to the right, 1, 2, and back down into that top point. All right, now we're ready to start working our way back up. So 1, 2, and this time we go up 1, 2, and down into that shared hole. One final. Okay, to the right, 1, 2, and up 1, 2. Oop, right there. Ta-da! Okay, so I actually, when we did the rows, I had you flip the ray stitch. That was kind of part of the texture here. Hold on, let me show you on the actual model. Here we go. Just to give it a fun, and you can see, here's a good example of, you know, how I kind of opened that hole, that shared hole quite a bit, and that sort of almost adds to the texture of that row. So what we'll do to start off, we're going to pick up right here. This will be stitch number 7, and we'll count down and over 4. But again, now use what you've already stitched. It's going to be on the diagonal 2 threads or up and to the right 2 threads. I know I sound like I'm probably repeating myself a lot with this whole, you know, use previous stitches, but it really does help. So we're going to go up 1, 2, and then over 1, 2. Now this time we're going to go over and down 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, down 1, 2, 3, 4. And then a quick double check, you can see that we're also 2 threads on the diagonal from where we ended that previous stitch. So now we'll come up here, we'll work our way up. 1, 2, and then over 1, 2. I'm going to complete this stitch just because I think it's pretty. Then we're going to come up again, that top point. I'm not even counting this time. I think by now you should probably have the rhythm of it. And that is what's kind of fun with these specialty stitches is, you know, if you count the first couple, then you get the rhythm of the stitches. Okay, and back down into the center. And you're ready to continue your row. Isn't that fun? I just love the texture that that gives. Okay, I'm going to take a little break here and I'm going to load up with the Aida and get some more thread in my needles. Okay, and I'm back and I'm all loaded up with some Aida and again with my, my pearl cotton. And I've got my waist knot ready to go and I'm ready to start the upright cross. So I'm going to bring my needle up here. And if you're doing the Aida stitches, we're going to follow these versions on the right side of the page. So I've come up at the top at number 1 and then I'm going to go 2 blocks straight down to number where I go down at number 2 and easy peasy, we've got the first leg of our upright cross done, and then we're just going to split that right down the middle, right here, and cross over it. We're going over 2 blocks for each one. Sorry, I'm thinking my needle is a little too big for this. I had one needle that was slightly larger and it's a little harder to use on the Aida, you know, and that's a good discussion on needle size. I think I just grabbed it out of my, my pincushion and we'll talk about that here in a second. So, okay, so that is our first upright cross. Now, if you're going to look at the diagram, we came down at 4 and then we're going to want to come up at 5. So we're going to go up 2 blocks and to the right 2 blocks from that first stitch. Yeah, I'm having a hard time poking through. So we go 1, 2, and then over 1, 2. And this is where we're going to put our next upright cross. And we'll count down 1, 2. And split that upright stitch with the horizontal stitch. All right, And then we're going to, because I'm coming up on the top side, I'm going to come down here at stitch number 9. And again, same thing. It matches up in the row. Come down over 2 blocks. Lines up to that first upright cross. And then we're going to cross the upright right down the middle. There you go. Now I'm going to talk about I think my needle size is a little too big because I was having a hard time putting it through the hole. Typically, I probably use a 26 needle most of the time. I know there's lots of charts out there that say, if you're stitching on this with this many strands, use this size needle. I'm a little bit more of a, if you can thread it, and you can go through, find the hole in either your Aida or your linen and it doesn't enlarge the hole, then I'd say go for it. Not that it enlarged the hole too much, but I was struggling a little bit with this. So I would say whatever size needle this is, that almost kind of looks like a 24. I usually use a 26. So needle size does matter. But so that's kind of just my rule of thumb. Yes, even there, just kind of going to park it. I feel like I'm really opening up my Aida, and I don't really like that. That was just a little side note there, just because I happened to pick that up out of my pin cushion. Okay. You never know what kind of things we're going to talk about in these videos. Okay, let's go for the double plate stitch, the double plate cross. I'm going to park my needle here again. I'm going to bring this up just a tad. Then I'm going to bring my needle up at 1 on the chart. Yeah, this needle's a little bit smaller. This I would say is definitely my size, my 26, and I'm having a much easier time coming through the linen. All right, let's grab the chart real quickly just to kind of talk about this. So we're going to come up at 1, and then we're going to go up to 2, which is either, if you can count diagonally on the 3, or up 3 blocks, and then to the left 3 blocks. Then we'll come straight down 4 blocks, and then we'll come up 2 up from our first stitch. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and then to the left 1, 2, 3, and let's go down. Then count down 4 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh goodness, sorry. I'm also thinking it's this Aida. This is a new piece of Aida that I had in my stash, and I just think it's a little stiffer than some. But while this needle is a little bit easier. 1, 2, 3, 4. Of course, this always happens when you're on camera. Okay, so we're going to come up here. 1, 2. Then our third stitch, where we come up at 5, is going to be just 1 down and 1 to the left from stitch number 1. And then 1 to the left and 1 down from where we went down at number 2. And we're almost ready to finish. We're going to come straight down 2 blocks. Bring your needle up, and remember, we're going to go over this stitch, but under the next one. So we just want to slide our needle under there, our needle and our thread. Okay. And down into spot number 8 on the chart. There we go. You can see that texture, that over under kind of basket weave like texture. I just love it. tell everybody it was just a really difficult stitch, and gosh, you suffered through it and you did it, but it was all for the good of the sampler. All right. So now we are on to the raised stitch. So let me park my thread here first. And I'm going to bring my needle up. So I have it up and ready to go, but I want to talk a little bit about the adjustments that I had to make in the raised stitch for Aida. So the first two where we come up at one, and then now this one I am having you split the Aida block, only because since we are going down into that 6 different times, that will kind of train that hole. So I am comfortable having you split the block up here, but I wasn't as uncomfortable splitting, like having a point like that here. If you'd like to try it, you are more than welcome to. So I just made this slight adjustment. I actually, let's see, added a spoke on the raised stitch here for you. Now you're probably wondering, what are those 2 dots? This is actually on, those are kind of like placement guides, placement markers. Let me grab the piece. Those are actually points on that green, that little triangle border up there, just to kind of help you with placement, all right? So this first one, I'm going to have you count it just a little different. We're going to go up 2 and then over 2. But instead of going down here, I actually want to go down halfway in that next, right in the middle of the block. Okay, so we're going to, so it's kind of like 2.5 blocks. All right, so you can kind of see where I went down, I'm not in a hole, I'm making the hole that I came down. All right, then we're going to come up at 2, which is just 1 down into the right diagonally from where we came up at stitch number 1. And then now you don't really have to think about it. We're going to go down into that same hole. All right, then 1 more stitch down into the right on the diagonal. So these are going to have eventually like a little more curved appearance instead of like a point to them, which gives it a whole different look. I think it's kind of cool. So this is where we make the just the slight accommodation for Aida. We're going to come straight across. That's on the chart where we go from 3 to 4 and then work our way back up. I'm wearing my stitching glasses and then of course holding it far away. Sorry, sometimes I have to hold it a little bit closer to me. I think most of you all understand. Now, when you'll probably, maybe you saw that slight little motion that I made when I pull this. I'm kind of pulling on it a little bit because I am trying to open that hole up just a little bit. Since we are putting 6 strands down in that hole, opening it up just, number one, like I said, it kind of adds to the look and the texture, but it does, the stitches don't all kind of end up, you know, glommed on top of each other. So on the chart, we're going to start our second one because we flipped direction. We're coming up at 7 and we start the same way. We're going to, let me hold this here. We're going to come down 2 and then over 2, but I'm going to split the very next block, just like we did on that first one, and then work our way up on the diagonal. Down into that shared hole. Okay, and this is where we made the little accommodation for the Aida, in that we are coming straight across. We're adding a stitch, but we're coming straight across. There we go. All right, and then we're going to work our way down. And one final. There we go. Okay, so you have that lovely raised stitch on your Aida, and I think hopefully you can see what I mean, where I felt like because we were going into that hole so many times, that did create kind of a nice point on our raised stitch. But then, like I said, this kind of makes it a little curvier. So there we go. There are our 3 stitches on Aida, the upright cross, the double plated cross, and then the raised stitch. All right, I'm gonna end here and I'll be right back. Okay, here I am back. I'm trying to hold them all, but they're all kind of slipping. There we go. All right, so of course you probably have one paddle, and you can switch out the seasons with your folk series, and but mine of course have to travel sometimes, so that's why I have the 4 different. But I loved creating this series for you, for me. It was a challenge. It was something new, something unique for me, and I really want to thank you for trying it, for welcoming it. I had a lot of people say that they had never tried specialty stitches before. They were happy that they could do it on Aida, and I feel like a lot of people had some doors opened for them. So I really do appreciate that you welcomed the series. My apologies that it took so long to get the specialty stitch tutorial up for that one. So now I feel a lot better that, that you are well equipped. So even if you've already finished this, great job. If you are kind of like, oh, you put it aside because, ooh, something else caught your eye, maybe this will be the little, you know, reminder to get going on it, and maybe you don't have much to do. So I really appreciate just the excitement that everybody had for this particular series. So I like doing these tutorials like this. Hopefully they've helped you. Hopefully you've enjoyed them, and I look to do some more here in the future. So enjoy the stitch, and we'll be talking to you very soon.